Today we shall be able to look through one of the series that is self-organized. You realize that there are many events organized across the world on Ngugi Thiong'o, but also there is events organized by the family. I think the family has given a lineup of activities they'll be able to hold America, but also in Africa, but also in Kenya in particular. But this is one of the series of self-organized activities that the comrades and activists and friends are organizing from Ngugi Thiong'o, because Ngugi Thiong'o was larger than any one person, any one family, or even in one country. So that's why we are organizing these events the way they are. But I like the idea that was floated earlier this afternoon. Yesterday when they were organizing this by the Justice Network, and they said that in Africans' way of mourning, we don't wait for a signal. Sometimes we just see somebody has died who is close to us, and the following day we just bring seats, we just bring tents, we organize chai, and we start our reflection of that person. It's what happens, of course, normally in many African setups. And this is exactly what we are doing from Ngugi Thiong'o. But now today we are not essentially mourning Ngugi Thiong'o. We are celebrating his patriotic legacy. And that's why we will not only focus about his literary works, but also we shall talk about his life as a person, his life as a revolutionary poet, as a writer, but also as somebody who was so close to the struggle. So we will start this session with a little bit of protest music from the team led by Githuku. Githuku will carry on maybe about 10 minutes, and then we'll then go back to Comrade Wangari from the Justice Network. Will give us some words, and then we will let the other program forward as it is. So karibu sana Comrade Githuku and all the comrades on Pan-African House. Karibuni sana.
I hope you're hearing us loud and clear. The most beautiful thing about your voice, or rather the broadcast sound of your voice right now, reminds me of the stories of when the bullets begin to flower, where we were young. It was our Gen Z time. We were in RPP and Freedom Corner, and we had all these revolutionary ideas. And I think one of our crazy ideas was how to start a rebel radio. And that's how you sound like Dr. Njoki, Comrade General Dr. Njoki, Professor. Because, Ngugi Thiong'o also comes with a lot of nostalgia in terms of where we have come from. And I remember one time somebody raising that issue of saying we need a rebel radio which can do our music, which can broadcast our dreams, which can, set our manifesto and communicate with the masses. And so this is something that I think, in the honor of Ngugi Thiong'o, we can still think about, because we now don't need to be on top of a Land Rover moving from Marsabit to Kabete, in a day, broadcasting along the way. So the music that we are going to do, I am joined here by Generali of Kongamano la Mapinduzi KLM. I am joined here by a great artist, Makadem, who is also my neighbor. He has come to Goshakaya, to Womboleza, and to hold vigil for Ngugi Thiong'o with us. Makadem is a great artist who does Nyatiti. We have Nduta, Comrade Nduta of the Pan-African House. We have Garang, who also actually, apart from being in the streets fighting oppression, sings some very nice bass. We have Comrade Mombi from the Women Collective. We have Comrade Mwikali from the Feminist, Pan-Africanist, Pussy Power movement in Kenya, representing Mathare. And also we have our great brother from Tanzania. So the representation of Jumuiya la Afrika Mashariki is well represented right here. And of course we have, Comrade Chebukati. Not the Chebukati of the elections, but the Chebukati of the revolution. Dedan Kimathi, loving comrade, yeah. far away from home. Yes, we love you, till we need you. For the things you've done for us. Mekatilili, loving comrade. Yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you. Things you've done for us. Uloni nyanjiro, loving comrade. Yeah, yeah. Yes, we love you. Still we need you. For the things you've done for us. Heroes no war, G. Loving comrade. Yeah, we are. Love you, still we need you. For the things you've done for us. Uloni nyandiru, loving comrade. Yeah, we are. Far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you. For the things you've done for us. Yoga ma pinta, loving comrade. Yeah, we are. Far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you. For the things you've done for us. Queen Mishere, loving comrade. Here we are, far away from home. Yes, we love you, till we need you. For the things you've done for us. Aching oneko, loving comrade. Yeah, we are, far away from home.
I think you're getting stuck.
Yes, I love you. Thank you for the things you've done for us. Wangari Mata, loving comrade. Here we are, far away from home. Yes, we love you, till we need you. For the things you've done for us. Atama Mukangi, loving comrade. Here we are, far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you. For the things you've done for us. Nahatam Wakenya, loving comrade. Yeah, we are. Yes, we love you, still we need you. For the things you've done for us. Ngugi Thiong'o, loving comrade. Here we are, far away from home. Yes, we love you. Still we need you for the things you done for now. You.
Right.
Are we done?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me see whether I'm on. Thank you so much, and others who are there. Thank you so much, Makadem. Thank you so much, Vitali and Mikali and others. I didn't even think my voice was such radio voice, so I'm proud of it all. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I think we'll come at some point within this session, not really to use art as an interlude, but just art as an expression by itself. So you'll come at some point, and we'll be able to bring on. But now this is the structure that we want to look at. We want to look at of course, we had some performances of Ngũgĩ Thiong'o, of the poetry from Githuku and the team there. The second section now, which we are going into, is to look at the personal stories of Ngũgĩ Thiong'o's work and how it has impacted many of us. And this will be led by Wangari, Wangari from Rich Justice Network. And then we shall come to some reflection of his writings and discussion on his advocacy on language. We shall talk also about Ngũgĩ as a prison of conscience, even when he ran away from Kenya. But also we shall talk finally about his long-lasting influence on writers and scholars worldwide. So that's a shade we shall be able to employ. But just to have a little bit, everybody has a piece of something to take from Ngũgĩ Thiong'o. I think when you reflect for great people like Ngũgĩ Thiong'o and people like Nyerere and people like Miguel Cabral and others, we always say that their shoes are so big to be filled by any feet. And I sometimes equate these kind of people with the proverbial elephant, which it said that there were 6 blind people went to see that elephant, and they all touched a piece of the elephant. Some others said it was like a log, others like an umbrella, others said it was this and this. Almost 6 of them had different interpretations of that person. So sometimes the way that we see Ngũgĩ, it's multiple narratives, and each narrative of the way you see Ngũgĩ is justified in its own way, because the way you see Ngũgĩ is not what other people see of Ngũgĩ. But a snapshot is that I see Ngũgĩ maybe briefly going into 4 phases of his life. In 1960s, when there was assassinations from people like Pioga Mapinto, the proscriptions of KPU, Kenya People's Union. There was all that things that were happening badly, and this is the one that we see in Ngũgĩ earlier works. For example, the early works of River Between, a grain of wheat, We Not Child. We see the earlier works in 1960s trying to look what he called his own personal expression into as a person, but also into works. But now we see the 70s, and now Ngũgĩ is becoming even much more ideological. He's now becoming a writer who is trying to give a voice not only to himself, but also to the person and workers that he talked about. And this is why we see books like Petals of Blood being released at the same time, 1777. But now Ngũgĩ is going back to communities within Kamiredo to dig deeper into the inspiration which inspire people and people's struggles. But then we see the new writing now coming up after his detention without trial at Kamite, and that's why we see now his biggest shift into radical literature. Things like Chaitanya Mudarava in The Devil on the Cross and others now come at such a time. And then we see now from then his books even becoming much more radical and much more militant, going forward even to do with Matigari, many other books, for example, even Morogo Kagogo and many others. But also we see a big shift into languages then. But one of the things that we will not forget is also that, and this is simply a fact that many of us forget, is that Ngũgĩ at some point emerged from the DTA movement, the Disamatalo movement, with people like William Otunga, people like Kamonji Wachira, and people like Oyugi, and was still into Makenya. And you remember at some point he was the leader of the spokesperson of Makenya, particularly Makenya was in exile. and he did a lot of good things to the movement. So that's why I'm saying that Ngugi Thiong'o is looked in so many ways by so many people. And the way the piece that we touch on Ngugi Thiong'o is justifiable, and it is how he inspires our lives, our works as writers, but also as people who are committed to the struggle for social justice and a better society for all of us. When I was coming, and I know many of you maybe, when I was coming for these sessions, which I just picked 3 books from my personal library here. But there's this book, I think you see this book. This book is a book which is called Writing Against Colonialism. It's a yellow book. I don't know. It's of course yellow. Yeah, the yellow color nowadays in Kenya is almost a very good color. But this is a book by Ngugi Thiong'o. It's called Writing Against Colonialism. I picked an old book also written. It's called Writers in Politics. It's a very old book again. It is almost, I think, one published. But also there's a book which I like very much. It's called Ngũgĩ Detained, a writer's prison diary. And I think this book, many of us in RPP, Released Political Prisoners, had almost this book like a standard text, where you used to read, most of us. But just before I invite Wangari, in this Writers in Politics, Writing Against New Colonialism, there's something that Ngugi writes very well. He writes that how would the writer in a new colonial state, how does a writer function in a new colonial state? He can, of course, adopt silence or self-censorship, in which case he ceases to be an effective writer. Or he can become a state functionary, an option some Kenyan writers have now embraced, and once again cease to be an effective writer of his people. Or he may risk jail or exile, in which case he is driven from the very source of his inspiration. Write and risk damnation. Avoid damnation and cease to be a writer. That is a lot of the writer in a new colonial state. Then he writes, but as the struggle continues and intensifies, the writer in a new colonial state will become harder and not easier. His choice, it seems to me that the African writer of the 80s, the one who opts for becoming an integral part of the African Revolution, has no choice but that of aligning himself with the people, the economic, political, cultural struggle, or survival. In such a situation, he will have to confront the language spoken with the people in whose service he has put his pen. That is an excerpt from his book, Writing Against Colonialism, by Ngugi Thiong'o, published by Vita Books, I think in 1986. But also it has been published in several other places, even in terms of papers. But for now, I want to invite the host of this event, the Justice Network, and just to say some of the last event for Ngugi Thiong'o for the past 2 years. One of them, which was very successful and very influential, was the one that was held in London, in the UK, by the Justice Network, which is here represented by Penina Wangari. But also last year we had, and you can see the events. You can see what you're seeing now coming on the screen says that event that was there in UK. But also the last event that he held last year was in Atlanta, which was held by Kenya USA diaspora community led by Mureithi Ndodo. I think I told him to come on board. He might have come on board. Those were 2 events. But one of the big events that made Ngugi to travel out of USA, almost 5 years he's never been able to travel, was the one that was held by the Justice Network in UK. And so this time I will invite Comrade Wangari to be able to come and speak a little bit about the personal stories of how Ngugi work has impacted your life, thinking, your activism, but also within your organization. So Wangari, if you are there, karibu sana.
Right. Thank you, Comrade Njuki. I've had the camera off because somebody here is all over the table and under the table and everything else. So trying to hold that back. Yeah, and I think maybe just to say thank you for including people who've attended, but also for the quick organization of this space. As Juki said, our African custom is when usually somebody has departed, we gather pretty much immediately to console, to celebrate, to ask what else can be done. And there's no like the formality, or it's not too formal, and it's a way of collectively going through or processing the transition of somebody in the community who's now transitioned to ancestry. And that was the motivation behind this. We felt that seeing that Mwalimu is based and was based in the US, and the family is there, what about the global community? Because some of us have been lucky enough to be in spaces where we're seeing tributes, reading tributes, hearing something else that we didn't know about Mwalimu, seeing other people that he's impacted. So, and it just made me wonder about what others, the ones who are not maybe have the capacity to engage with others like we are, or read the tributes as they are coming through, but also feel like they've been impacted heavily by Mwalimu as well and want to share. So this is what we're hosting and holding a space for in our African custom, but also to celebrate Mwalimu, because as we know, and as has been shared, his last wish was not for people to mourn, but to celebrate. And for me, there's a larger call in terms of celebration, is not to do empty gestures and just say he was great and that's it. I think there's a call here for us to celebrate through our actions, or to celebrate through our actions in terms of our revolutionary ideas that we've learned, our actions of kind of being political and living by not just by words of mouth. So in terms of the connection and the impact that Mwalimu has had, I'll still eventually pass back to Ndungi Githuku, because that's how I ended up meeting Mwalimu, was a connection through Githuku. And I think we've had I'd say a 5-year relationship with Mwalimu. And what I feel, and maybe most of the people, and I can see people here who we helped to either organize a session here in the UK, but also others who are international, but also have shared in different spaces about Mwalimu. So I can see and recognize a few names. The thing that was most striking was how accessible and how humble Mwalimu was. So the giant that he was, the giant in terms of like what he's written, his work, the length of time he's been doing this work. And when you meet him, the humility that he comes with, and his warmth and his humor, and that ability to just connect with somebody in the point or at the point where somebody's at. So the ego side of it, didn't see it, didn't feel it at all. And from that initial connection and conversations, which, as I said, I think over and over, he became a mentor, is because he also pushes and asks questions and calls onto you, but also acknowledges and celebrates, also encouraging for us to do more. And that's what the 5-year relationship I'd say we've had has been, like phone calls at whatever hour in the day. I think I'd say I'm also very, very lucky, because whilst we were hosting the symposium, I was expectant. Not many people knew at the time. I was 6 months expectant. And I say that my daughter, or our daughter, Zawadi Mudhoni, was there helping, whether it was helping put shoes on and socks on or combing the hair. We did all of that with Mudhoni. And then eventually on Mudhoni's arrival, the fact that she's had songs sung to, well, because Mwalimu's rang when she's crying and he's there singing a song to her, and she stops. And one of our favorite songs, which is by Kwame, is Mwene Nyaga, which obviously we were playing a lot during the trip here and long after Mwalimu had left. So for me, feeling incredibly honored and lucky to have not just had the contact we had over the period we've had, but also the next generation, which is Zawadi Modhoni, is also heard and connected with from conversations on the phone. But I'll speak to the invitation even to come here because we were talking, Mwalimu was inviting me to the US and I said, why don't you? And that what started as almost like a very light-hearted conversation became a serious conversation. And then it essentially engaged the entire organization to facilitate that. And I know Bara, who's here, was the one who had to negotiate the health side because that was a determining factor. And from that, being able to settle and find that, we were able to say, okay, we can officially do this. I've shared with a few people who've contacted me to kind of to give their commiserations that there was an urgency. There was an urgency on my part because of recognizing his eldership and the frailty of his health. So there was an urgency that people asked why we couldn't do it a lot slower, we couldn't do it at a different time. And it didn't feel that I wanted to wait. And that's how we did what we did when we did it. And I'm so grateful for being able to do that, and for all of the people, including in the group here, in the space here, and others not in the space, who responded to the call to help organize, to hold and host Mwalimu in the UK. I think on arrival, and I leave Githuku to share that, I hadn't really realized that Mwalimu hadn't traveled for 5 years. He had said he hadn't traveled, but I think he made a point to some of the spaces we were attending to say that he hadn't traveled or left US for 5 years. And I made him do that. Obviously in a kind of like jokey manner, not forcefully. I didn't, threaten or anything like that. But the honor of being able to, because what I also said and shared was I feel very lucky that I've been able to have this relationship with Mwalimu, who's influenced a lot of, I finished my PhD, and he's all over my thesis, thoughts that he hadn't even written, including one topic like normalized abnormalities, which we'd spoken about maybe 2-3 years prior to the talk that he gave at Manchester University when he was here in October 2023. So there was things that he was feeding and sharing with me that I feel have really deeply impacted the approach, the way I look at activism, the way I present and offer myself to political education and call for decolonization and everything else underneath. So and as I said, when I heard him talk over and over about that he hadn't traveled and he came because of me, I was like, wow, how lucky am I? And also to be able to share Mwalimu with the UK community who maybe hadn't had that contact. And obviously the hosting wasn't just Mwalimu, we hosted a whole other delegation, the other delegation also that traveled from Kenya, and including Githuku himself. So to be able to do that and to deepen and bring the conversations back, because the whole title of the symposium, the international symposium, was Gukogoera Ngugi Thiong'o, which means we were celebrating him. And I hope it's the point where we ask people to share and feed in. People like Chiwe will share what we were able to do in Sheffield, because we wanted to celebrate. And I think the idea, what we shared, was we don't want to celebrate people when they've passed on. We wanted to celebrate them whilst they were here. So, and for that, we were able, actually, the little video playing there is that. And what we were able to do in the whole 3 weeks was, yes, acknowledge his work, but really celebrate and serenade him and thank him whilst he was here. And the bit that I feel has had a continuation is because the other communities, including the Kenyan community in Atlanta, who maybe heard or were aware of what we've done in the UK, including coronating, or the coronation where we crowned him as King of Sheffield, thanks to Githuku, was the Kenyan community in Atlanta also took that baton on and honored in an even bigger way, held bigger ceremony even. And for that, I'm grateful, because I think there was an element of not waiting for, I don't know, the powers that be to tell us, not just for the Nobel Prize, but to tell us what's important. Sorry, she keeps climbing under the table and hitting her head. So we were not waiting for permission. We were not waiting for resources. We were getting on with what we had because we could. And yeah, as I said, I'm thankful for that and for everybody who helped to achieve that. But the ceremony in Sheffield was a real marker, with the dressing gown and the singing and the ulele that I can't do. And yeah, so on this point, maybe I'll pass back to Githuku to share, because Githuku has had a much longer relationship, but also Githuku was generous enough to share Mwalimu with me, and essentially me continue extending that. But in terms of his impact, and as I say, maybe as also still a reminder, is for us to do much more than just acknowledge his work and his legacies, to do what he's asked or he has done. He's lived by example, and for us to continue that work, which is what he kept saying over and over in our conversation about passing the baton, and we are the ones who are on now that we need to continue this work. Yeah, thank you again, Njoki, Dr. Njoki.
Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade Wangari, for that insightful account of your relationship with Ngugi Thiong'o. I think without much ado, I'll invite Comrade Githuku. You have had a relationship, a longer one than most of us, actually, in terms of physical attachment to Ngugi Thiong'o. Even days that you were an activist early in the years, even when Ngugi was in exile. I remember that even RPP, where you and I used to be, was inspired by the Committee for the Release of Political Prisoners in UK, which Ngugi was part of, and it is the same idea that came to Kenya, and RPP came into shape. But also I remember you that even the poetry that you used to read and recite from the early works of Mutiri, the publication from Ngũgĩ, and many other books that were there before. So there was a lot of things that you will be able to tell you. But of course, of note, apart from the contacting of going to London to meet Ngugi and stay with the Wangari, you also participated in terms of the organizing the forum that for Ngugi in Atlanta. But before then, you even after that, you tried so much.
Comrade, allow me, because Githuku has just stepped out a bit. Maybe you can give someone else. Then when he comes back, he's handling an emergency just here. So then after someone speaks, then Githuku can take over, please.
Okay. Fine then. I will then try to before Githuku can come back, because I wanted him to chip in immediately so that we open the floors wide. But this is the agenda that we shall try to look into. I would like, if Mama D, you're on the call, I would like you to give your own reflection, just like the way the personal stories, Mama D. I remember you came to the country the other day, but you can also step in if you come and give your reflections on the way that you engage with Ngugi in UK, his writings, his act on decoloniality and many other things. If you're on the call, you can just come. But if you're not ready, I can always be able to open the floor to some other person. Amadi, are you on the call?
Yeah, I think I'd seen Mamadi also, but if they're not available, I don't know whether I'm putting you on the spot. But yeah, maybe just extend the invitation to others.
Yeah, no, great. Now, we had said that there is after Githuku speaks, we thought we'd open the floor to many other people here, but I would like us to straight away go to other comrades who are here. But I like us to speak anything, in any idea, in the reflection you have on Ngugi, but also we will be able to see the people who are raising their hands. So if you want to speak in this open session, this is your time, but you can speak about reflections on African literature, decolonization, your personal interaction with Ngugi Thiong'o, any personal stories you have with it, and we'll give you about 2 minutes before just to do that. So we will invite Hassan Omari. Karibu sana ndugu Hassan, just tell us about your reflections.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Dr. Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Hassan Kenya Omari, the chairman Muslim Professionals League Africa, and also one of the directors of Chance Publishers. Actually, ours is to highly appreciate the life of this great scholar. And personally, I'm from Embu. And when I entered, or we entered Islam, in a way, we forgot our religion. And not our religion, our culture and our language. But through Professor Ngugi Thiong'o's books, especially Ngahika Ndenda, we try to relate back to our language. And another thing, actually, we like with Professor Ngugi Thiong'o, as I teach at the University of Nairobi, the School of Philosophy and Religious Studies, looking at African traditional religion, is seeing how he could maintain his name, Ngugi Thiong'o. In fact, he influenced many other scholars to maintain their names. And after him, actually, if I had read his books before, I would have maintained my name Kenya with others without even adding other names. But this is a person who was so independent-minded, and we learned a lot from him. He has influenced a lot from me. Actually, before reading his books, we had even removed my name Kenya from my birth certificate, but I had to go back and saw our affidavit to include my name back. And after him, I've made sure that all my children's names are also like my name, Muhammad Maina, Salim Mwega, and that's how you see now many Muslims are retaining their traditional names. So may God bless him. May he rest in peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hassan Omari. We are happy that you've been able to revert back to your names, your African names, quoted on Ngugi Thiong'o, and the much more influence that he has given all of us in various ways, not only Africanizing our names, but also Africanizing our context and experiences in terms of as writers, but also to be able to rally against any bad government that might come into play. So I will check the people are raising their hands. If you're raising your hands, just tell me, and then I'll be able to give you the mic. This is a plenary session. Is Githuku around? Is Githuku back?
We are here. Thank you very much. And I love that story of the the story of the Muslim names, because I've never thought about it. Because we say, like why Ngugi dropped his name James, is because he said these are Christian name. It's a colonial name. But now when you have a Muslim name, it's an interesting debate. Like, consciously, are you supposed to feel you need to drop it, or how does that work? So that's interesting. It's something I've never thought about before. But yeah, we are here. I don't know what Njoki you want me to say, but we've been joined by Matazi from Los Angeles. From Los Angeles, California. And we've been joined by a Pan-Africanist filmmaker, activist, human rights defender, and revolutionary from Congo, Goma, who actually participated. I met him through Ngugi Thiong'o, because Ngugi, just threw me under the bus when they came to film him when he was coming back home after 23 years. And I think that time Ngugi was thinking that he can live in Kenya, but we all know what happened at that time. It's a very, very, very not good, but a very nasty thing that happened to him. And so, Pep Nandaliko Katondolo comes from the Congo, and he has just joined us. So we have a Pan-Africanist, richness going on here. And so we are happy. So what did you want me to do?
No, I was before you were away. I know you were receiving your guests. Thank you so much. I know that's what that's why you stepped up. But I was saying that when I was introducing you first, let me just give you what I spoke, and I think generally listened, and he might have told you as your peer at the moment. The first thing I said, the first thing I said is that I know you know Ngũgĩ, even the days that we, even before, during the times of even his exile and many other things. But I remember that even when there was a committee for the release of political prisoners, which was located in London, I think that's the same committee which with activists from RPP came and took and strongly, and you're part of that movement. But also I remember you reciting the poetry from Mutiri, the journal for Ngũgĩ Thiong'o, which you still have very, very eloquently. But also I mentioned that you are central in terms of inviting and connecting Ngũgĩ to Wangari and Racial Justice Network, holding what you call Kogogoira. I think you tell us in English what that means, because sometimes one the code don't flow well into English, but you tell us about it all. Yeah. But also you will tell us, of course, you're also central in terms of the event in Atlanta, Georgia. I think when you the last one that Ngũgĩ was organized by Mourn and others. But of very important to note is that the last days of Ngũgĩ Thiong'o were spent in writing Mareveta and in Gĩkũyũ, and you are central in terms of supporting him and helping me to write, to look at the wording of all those reflections and expressions that he was doing. But also you did some of the acts. I can see even some of them with Comrade Mombi was involved. I can see Nduta was involved at some point. I can see many other comrades who are here were involved in some of the Mareveta that you did in Ngũgĩ. So tell us your own impression of Ngũgĩ from the way you know him, from the days of released political prisoners, from the times of Mutiri, a little bit, and which I'll give you about 5 minutes. So Karibu Ndungi.
Okay. Yeah, I know my comrades here will time me so that I don't take more than I need to. Ngũgĩ Thiong'o, I think the first interaction was through just the name, Ngũgĩ Thiong'o, because growing up, I am here in a little village in the middle of East Africa, Mwemuto, which is also in Kabete. Later, because of what we have, like the counties, we happen to come from the same county of Kiambu with Ngũgĩ. But this is the first time I'm thinking about it, that actually we shared a county, because Ngũgĩ has been a Kenyan, African, and world household name that we never thought, like who you name to, where to. And he didn't carry himself that way as well. He just carried himself as a human being who has got a duty to defend the rights of minorities, to defend and voice the voice of the voiceless, which he did very eloquently through his literature. And I used to hear about Ngũgĩ when I was, say, maybe 9, 10, 11, mostly from my cousins who used to read Ngũgĩ and who also used to tell stories about Ngũgĩ. So in my household, my cousins who were very acquainted with Ngũgĩ and new teachings and progressive politics at that time, I could not understand, what they were up to. But later, they are the same people that Ngũgĩ was fighting for, because they were in a proscribed movement in Kenya called Mwakenya. And so while they were forming Mwakenya, I would go to my auntie's house, and one of the things that they would be talking about definitely was about Ngũgĩ Thiong'o. Did you read this book? Did you read this new paper that Ngũgĩ has just released? And so I would hear about Ngũgĩ Thiong'o. The other way I would hear about Ngũgĩ Thiong'o is because they used to narrate a lot about Gahikadenda. But before Gahikadenda, they used to talk a lot about Maito Jugera, which was staged at the University of Nairobi, Ed 2. But it was never really staged because they actually were always being hunted down. Like there were all these being proscribed, like you won't stage this play. There was a lot of pressure at that time. And so most of the people watched this play during rehearsals. And what they did very smartly, Ngũgĩ and crew made the rehearsals be the show, and the show became the rehearsals. So the police and the special branch could not understand what was happening because the play did not quite get staged. So I would hear stories about these. And in that young formative age, I started loving theater, which, I later practiced. And so the theater theory was based on oral stories that I had from my cousins. And later, I got to read, start reading Ngugi myself. And I remember anything that would go wrong, in the country, there would be people like sycophants of the dictatorial regime at that time, Kanu, and Moi regime. People like Karaoke Chotara would say, munafikiri nyinyi ni Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you are followers of Ngugi wa Thiong'o. You think you're hard-headed like Ngugi wa Thiong'o. So Ngugi wa Thiong'o was this mystic figure to me as a young guy growing up in the village. But later, during the struggle for the release of political prisoners, I would say that's when I came closest now to people who are talking about Ngugi very, very positively and very, practically about things that Ngugi had been involved in. And they were talking about the underground movement. So they were talking about Mwakenya, and they were saying that Ngugi was actually part of this. And so when the RPP was formed, Release Political Prisoners, which was preceded by mothers of these political prisoners coming to Nairobi, and almost, forcing or without guns, putting or trailing their guns on Wangari Maathai. These women said, Wangari Maathai, you are our leader. You are taking us to State House. We are going to see the president, that time Daniel Arap Moi, and he has to release our sons. And so this movement started building slowly, and it got to the Freedom Corner, where now Wangari told the mothers, we cannot quite go to State House right now, but we can base ourselves at the Freedom Corner. And remember, this is the same place where Wangari Maathai had almost single-handedly fought against the grabbing, because that's where they wanted to build the Times Tower. It was supposed to be the tallest building in Africa, but Wangari Maathai opposed that. So this is a site that was chosen and became the battlefield where political prisoners were being fought for by Kenyans through these mothers, and the movement started growing. But behind the scenes, one of the things we would hear about and talk about is Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Ngugi wa Thiong'o has written a letter. Ngugi wa Thiong'o has said this, plus his team. And so we learned that actually Release Political Prisoners, the one that we started here was not the original. The original Release Political Prisoners was formed in the UK by people like Abdilatif Abdallah. We have the MP for Kamukunji, Hassan, Yusuf Hassan. We had people like the great poet Linton Kwesi Johnson, originally from Jamaica, but a dub poet based in the UK. And Wanjiru Kehoro was also one of those people. And I remember Ngugi later in life now telling me that make sure that Wanjiru's name is always mentioned, because Wanjiru Kehoro played a very, very, very crucial role. All of them, they did play a very crucial role, including those who have not mentioned. So I cannot be able to conclusively talk about Ngugi wa Thiong'o in 30 seconds, because I'm being told by my fundi wa mitambo that I have got 30 seconds to wind up. And so I don't want to take more time, but if there are questions later, I can be able to talk about how we used to joke with Ngugi when I now personally got to meet him. A very hilarious fellow, a fellow who was a good storyteller, not only by writing, but now orally, like giving stories and talking about himself, talking about how he grew up and how much he loved his mother, because he always talked about Wanjiko Mumbi, his mother, and he always talked about his formative stages of growing up and going to school, Alliance without shoes, and later how he wore his first shoe, so there are so many beautiful stories. And of course, I used to tease him, like, when he comes to Kenya, when you come back to Kenya, because you've been in exile forever, I'm going to get you a job as a broadcaster, because Ngugi wa Thiong'o had one of the best voices that I've ever experienced, a broadcast voice.
Great. Thank you so much, comrade. But I will give you 1 or 2 minutes now. There's one section which I want you to clarify for us. I remember you when I come to Memuto, you used to tell me Ngugi Thiong'o is on the roll. He will produce Mareveta after Mareveta, the last days of his life. And some of us were astonished that Ngugi at 85, 86, 87 years old is so productive creatively, writing. I think even at some point you say that you might not be able to keep pace with the style with Ngugi's writings, the way he was producing them, even in terms of rehearsals. Tell about that short experience about the last creativity of Ngugi Thiong'o and Eko Mareveta.
Wow, it sounds magical, if I may say, because being with Ngugi and sitting with Ngugi and talking with Ngugi, I never thought that it was part of the journey of making history for himself and for the world. I never thought that these were the last writings of Ngugi. But Ngugi was always excited to be among younger people, younger folk, people who were giving him energy. Now, in reflection, that's what I can say. That Ngugi always came alive when you are with him. Yeah, and he always used to encourage me on behalf of others. Like he used to send me messages to you, to anybody that I would meet anywhere. And at one point, I actually told him that, Ngugi, whenever I go for gatherings, including campaigns, because I vied in the last election for the seat of member of county assembly here, I would tell my folks, you have been said hi to Ngugi. And I can now confess that he actually had not sent me in some of these meetings. But I felt like I have the authority because, Ngugi was that kind of person. He loved gatherings. He loved communities, and he loved people. And so through me, I would get to a point where I say, have you received the greetings of Ngugi Thiong'o? And on the ground, you'd hear people actually appreciate and say, yeah, we have appreciated.
Is it me who is muted? Is it me? Am I Githuku? Is Githuku call me?
I was trying to, I guess.
Githuku ni wewe ama ni mimi?
I think it's sticking. Yeah.
It's me on the air.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's freezing. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, please. Githuku, I hear you are freezing. Is that the language of Zoom now when you say it's freezing? Freezing means this language.
Am I broken?
No, you're still, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're not, you're frozen, but now you're back again. Karibu.
Yeah, so the poetry that we've been writing is actually based on the life of Kenyans right now. And so it means if you trace, it is in between the elections and today, so it's quite modern. And the first poem that we did is actually called Magoti Mamwaurado. I don't know who will help me translate that here. Magoti Mamwaurado, the tax of the thief, the tax of the people's robber, of the robbers of the people, of the the person who is stealing money from us, and it's because the regime that we have currently is a regime that has been taxing us heavily from the word go, and it's been shocking, that we've actually borrowed more than any other regime combined, in this short time of about 3 years. And so Ngugi felt connected with this. And so while I was here and he was there and technology was helping us, we would WhatsApp, just WhatsApp, like, this is my verse. And he would WhatsApp back and say, this is my verse. And then we would clean it up and then sometimes call each other. And in the meantime, he would want to know how Che is doing. Che is our 3-year-old. And so he would say, hello, Chair. Do you know how powerful your name is? This is Grandpa. This is Guka. Hi, are you happy? That is Ngũgĩ, you know. So I'm just trying to describe the kind of person that I know. The person that, a person who is very fatherly, grandfatherly, if you may like, brotherly to those who are of his generation, a teacher, but most of all, a person who loves and laughs, and a person who quite really cares about people. If only he was able to talk to each and every person in Africa, that would be the happiest time that Ngũgĩ would have lived. But you know, just by some kind of accidental privilege, here I am being the one who was the tunnel of his last bit of creativity and the juices of creativity that he actually, dripped off to the last minute.
Yeah, thank you so much, comrade. I think the last creative outputs of Ngugi Thiong'o makes us even acknowledge the fact that creativity has no end, and any time when he was passed on life, he was writing to the last pen of his life, and I think that's a big inspiration to all of us. But also writing expression of what is coming up in the country, but also among the people. But also in the last days of his life, stronger than ever against forces of dictatorship, forces of suppressions, and forces of oppression that continue driving the people to the wages of despair. We cannot fail to notice that Ngugi is one of the most ideological writers that we have on the continent, and that's why he resonates so well from the tributes we have seen. And I think it's what we can call maybe the social media is breaking down, because everywhere you read is Facebook statements from all over, even so a statement from EFF, statements from George Padmore Institute, from Africa Center, from comrades all over. I think it's one of the biggest outpouring of emotion that we have had for a writer, a philosopher, and an activist. Now, I would like to open the floor to many others. But on the chat, I've put some reflections. You can pick either of them, but also you can pick on your own, the way that you feel that you want to remember and to reflect over Thiong'o and celebrate his life. One of it is reflection on his impact on African literature and decolonization. The second one is his advocacy on indigenous languages in African literature and elsewhere in the group. We saw even some people in India, they were inspired by his love for the language and the way he made them to speak the language of their native. But also, we if you want to speak much more about his stories of courage as a prisoner of conscience in Kamete, in exile abroad, in Wakenya, anywhere, please speak on it. But also, lastly, we would like you to speak, if you've got some time, to speak on his lasting influence on writers and scholars worldwide. So that is the one I put on the chat. You can go back to the chat and look at it, but you can speak from whatever angle that you want to look at. And I will point people as they raise their hands, and then that will be fine. And the first person I'll see there is Jata Jerry. Karibu sana, Dr. Jerry.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you see me? Hold on. Yes, there I am.
Yes,
Hi,
yes,
how
yes.
are you? Hi,
Hi,
Wangari. I just wrote on chat, and I just want to say thank you. So today I use the word officially in Jata, the name that Ngugi Thiong'o gave me. He always used to call me Jerry Jata, and whenever we would speak every Sunday. So I'm very, very sad because yesterday, as a behavior or as something that we've been doing for a very long time, I picked up my phone and then wanted to call. And then I remembered, oh no, he's not going to pick the call because we always call at 7 German time. So I'm in Germany, in Cologne. And we always used to call at 7. And then I remembered, oh, if I call, nobody's going to pick up. And then it just hit me even more harder, that vacuum that is actually going to be there for me every Sunday. Because Sunday was our story time telling. It was really, time that he would tell me many stories that will remain with me, and a lot of other things. And I am so glad that he allowed me to be part of his life journey, because that's a life journey. So I met Ngugi when he came to Cologne, and my daughter was then 5 days old. So I was actually having like a small daughter on my hand, and she's called Janja. And then he looked at me and he said, "You look like you want to say something." That was our first conversation. And then I said yes, and then we spoke, and then he told me words, and I think Githuku, also my friend who is here, I have told these stories many times. He looked at me and he said, it doesn't matter how good you can speak German or how good you can speak other languages, if you don't learn your own mother tongue, you're still enslaved. And those words stuck to me so in such a depth that I immediately started learning Kikuyu. So I actually learned Kikuyu through him. He was teaching me Kikuyu every Sunday when he would tell the stories. He refused to write any email in English with me, and he would write everything in Kikuyu, and he would speak in Kikuyu, and he would send me projects in Kikuyu. And so I want to remember him also in that humane sense, as a human being who really cared. I also want to remember him as someone who also took his time to listen. He would always ask about my kids. He also knew that my husband had passed away, and he would make an effort every time to ask me, "How are you doing? How are the kids doing? How are they coping with the loss of their father?" So he was also very human in that sense. Unfortunately, Wangari, I missed the event that you did to celebrate and honor him. At the same time, he was in London. I was in Yale, and we missed each other on the flight like this, and I was so angry. I would have wanted to just come back, but it was not possible. I also want to say that together with him, we had an initiative about African languages, which was very important. As I said, that sentence really stuck with me, and we formed an initiative called CAL, and that's how actually he connected me to Wangari, because he was also very proud of what we were doing in terms of CAL, and CAL is about Kemet Awards in African Languages, and he's actually the one who even named it. So the name of this initiative was named by Professor Ngugi Thiong'o, and it is about celebrating not only people who are writing in mother tongues in terms of research, but also people who are teaching in mother tongues. And so I was connected with some people like Obuchi, Jane Obuchi, who has also translated one of his books also in Kigusi. And so I want to remember him in how he has also influenced the younger generation. And I was very proud of the Gen Z movement when they started, translating the Katiba or, the pay bill also in mother tongue languages, because that's exactly how we know what was happening, and also a way of knowledge production that was not visible, or maybe some of the people who are maybe in the hinterland did not understand what was going on. And the younger generation went back into using mother tongues. So that was also, again, a witness and a testament that when Ngugi Thiong'o says, if you know your mother tongue, you can be able to move a lot, and there's a lot of things that can be able to happen. And yeah, I'm just grateful that he was here. I celebrate his life. We celebrated him in CAL. We had over 600 and I think over 700 people who came to celebrate him, who saw him. He never missed any event from CAL. He was always there, even sometimes when I knew that he was not well, he still insisted on joining on Zoom. And that's how I want to remember him, as this person, as my Huka, who was always there, who was telling beautiful stories, but also to remember that decolonizing the mind is actually what he knows that there are a couple of us that are not going to let it go. And he knows that really decolonizing the mind, not in theory, but really in praxis, which we've always been doing and are continuing to do. So that's how I want to remember him in that passionate and in that Wuka way, and in his humility, in his utu, as Michelle Gidai Mugo would say, in his utu. So thank you. And thank you for organizing this. We are also going to organize something on CAL, but maybe in a week or 2 weeks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Njeri. Jata, of course, you have told people Jata is a star, the star. I think that's a very good word as well. And I think to have added officially within your own names, and it's really a big honor to Ngugi, and the way he could be able to fix names very, very easily to people. Like I remember that when Githuku and Githuku set up what we call a Comrades Kitchen, and I set up on the sidelines Comrades Bookhouse. I remember the first, and Githuku sent him that name of Comrades Kitchen, and it is the first time that he came and said, "Rikorewa Thiong'o." Rikorewa Thiong'o. We never knew even his word was Thiong'o. So even today we call each other with Githuku Thiong'o. We never know how those words came and how he could be able to come and put them all together. So he's really a genius in terms of creativity, in terms of names. Thank you so much, Jerry. Anyone else, please? Anyone else? I'm here waiting for your hands if you have something to say. In no particular order, you can just have some reflections on Ngugi, whatever there. Yeah. Anyone?
I think there's a hand by Hafsa.
Uh,
Mama D had come back as well.
yes, please. Hafsa, please. Karibu. Hafsa, karibu. Welcome. Hafsa, are you lost again? Okay, who else? You say Mama D is here. Mama D, are you on? Great. Yes, Neema Githere. Neema Githere. Karibu Neema. Please unmute Neema.
Oh, hello. Hi, mimi naitwa Neema Githere, Neema Kwamboka. I'm supposed to be in the in-person gathering, but I think grief and overwhelm have kind of been heavy on my heart. He was a close friend of my grandfather, Gilbert Gisharu Githere, who I've been learning a lot of stories about when they were spending time together in Hawaii. And it's interesting. I realized part of why I wasn't able to come in person, I guess, with the group that is there, is because of, his passing is actually bringing a lot of feelings of shame up at the fact that I can't grieve him in a language that would have brought him joy. And I know that shame is not productive, but I think so much of what I've heard from my grandfather, telling us, me and Matazi, who is there in the audience, about when he was about to be arrested again, and he ran up to my grandfather and whispered in his ear, like, "Hey, I think they're gonna take me." It was actually quite light and playful. When my Guka was telling me this story, he was laughing, but they didn't see each other again for over 8 years. And something I think I'm sitting with is, what it means to have a spirit like his, who you learn these anecdotes about in their passing, like what that does to the soil here, and what that does for those of us who are actually uncertain. And so I think I mainly wanted to speak up to say that it's interesting learning that you can grieve a person who you didn't know, but that they can be such a catalyst to what you need to do. And I'm also speaking on behalf of my grandfather, Gukajiji, who cannot be in attendance, but has been very adamant about me using my voice, even when it's not the voice I long to. Is a big reason also why I am beginning this language learning initiative and inviting people in collaboration with Book Bunk and the different libraries around Nairobi to relearn our Indigenous languages. So if any of you know or would be interested in participating in that and helping this wound that carries on from when the man we're grieving was also around, please reach out. But thank you so much for this space and for making the accessibility of it present, even virtually.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Neema. That's a really beautiful name. Neema is a combination of Kiswahili and English. It's a very nice name. But as we go ahead, I can see Hafsa, I can see Samuel Dogo. But before we go ahead, I hear there is Ngugi's family here. Joyce, but also Jinjo. If you are still around, you just raise your hand, then I'll be able to call you up, can have some word. I hear Jinjo is the son of brother of Ngugi Thiong'o, who was in the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, popularly known as the Mau Mau. But you will have a chance also, if there's family here, you can always give a chance to come and say a word about Ngugi Thiong'o. But for now, let's invite Samuel Dogo.
Thank you very much, Njoki. May I put my video on?
Yes, yeah, sure, you can. It's upon you.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. I am driving, but of course not myself driving. A friend of mine is driving me. He's called Tony Mugambi. Ndogo means moshi.
Oh, Dogo.
And I would like to begin there because the Ngugi I knew is such a creative mind. The first time I met him physically on a one-on-one meeting was in California, Irvine, where I had gone to interview him. And secondly, I had gone to attend an ALA, African Literature Association conference in Dallas, Texas. But so when I met Ngugi first, he joked about my name, Dogo. And to autograph the book, he wrote a poem. Immediately he wrote a poem, which I will repeat, I have never forgotten. Oderi, odere, Dogo yakane mwaki. And that was it. I'm not going to translate that. I leave the moderator to translate that for us. The Ngugi I knew was such a creative mind, very humble, and the encounter I had with him first was through his children's stories. So when I introduced myself that way, that I first encountered him through children's stories, he was super excited. In fact, he did not want to hear about my research in PhD in African literatures, but he was super excited that I had read his children's stories in Gikuyu, my mother tongue. And so I am here to celebrate my mwalimu, mentor, and friend, and of course, convey condolences to immediate family and the literary fraternity who have been, affected by this loss. Because I don't want to take more time, I want to say, at a personal level, Mwananjuki, is that last month I talked to Ngugi together with my colleague whom we collaborate in translation. Her name is Jane Obuchi. And we were working on a translation project where we were working on names in her. She was doing Ekegusi and myself in Gikuyu. And we talked with Ngugi at that time. And he asked me about Moi University, where I work, because we had a crisis at that time. So he's a person who really wanted to connect with people at a very personal level. Last week, as I was traveling to the US, one of the things that I needed to do was to get in touch with him, to touch base with him in California. Unfortunately, I received the news of his passing on when I was just about to leave Kenya. What I can say is that his legacy lives on. We might not be together physically, but he has left us a very rich legacy. Thank you so much for organizing this. I feel that this is an opportune moment for us, all of us, to continue with the good work that he started. Asante sana, and Mwaki, Wakane, Dogo, Oderi, Odere, Dogo Yakane Mwaki. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Well, I might not be, thank you so much, Dogo. Dogo, thank you so much. I might not be so good in terms of translation with Koyo. I think if I will ask my friend, my comrade, Ndungi will come at some point to be able to translate that. Udheri wakane, dogo yakane mwaki. I think I like it very much, dogo. I think Githuku will come at some point and explain what it means. But I think I like the way that you say that your first encounter with Ngugi Thiong'o is through reading the children's book in the core languages. And I think these are books like Baritola Jaban and then Shivu Kinganyi and other books that were his earlier works in African in languages of Gikuyu to young children. But I also remember maybe one point is that I was in the old system of education at the A levels, and the first book when we were halfway doing A Grain of Wheat, which was a seminal publication in our literature class, it was withdrawn by the government, just unceremoniously, and that was because Ngugi now had gone into exile in London, and he was one of the most wanted exiles in the country. You remember that people even banned effigies of Ngugi Thiong'o and other exiles in Kenya. And that was the first time it has never really left my mind that in the main draw of my A-level literature classes, a book from Ngugi Thiong'o, Grain of Wheat, is withdrawn. So we are left with others now to do it. And that is really a big impact. But also you realize that even when he was exiled is when he wrote Matigari Majirogi or Matigari in English. And it is said that even Moi was looking, and Moi even sent soldiers and other people to look, where is this Matigari who is supposed to work is terrorizing people. He rarely did he know that Matigari is a fictional character in one of Ngugi's books. So that's Ngugi for all of us. We've got different ways of remembering Ngugi. But now I invite other comrades who are here. Victor Onyango, please come on and tell us about your experience of Ngugi Thiong'o. Karibu sana ndugu. Victor? You're muted. Yeah, karibu.
Okay, thank you so much, Comrade Njuki. I'm Victor from Kenya, basically, Victor Onyango. For my case, I've never met Ngugi myself on a one-on-one basis, but I am one of the young people who have been inspired by Ngugi so much. I remember Ngugi as a revolutionary writer, not just as a writer. And also I remember him, for me, I also consider Ngugi a Marxist comrade, because from his works, the way I was trying to understand them, he wrote clearly from a Marxist perspective, one would say so. I read Ngugi's work after Form 4, and I think it is Ngugi who dragged me to the politics of the left, because before then, I was cheering the Gingas of this world. I didn't know there is a world that is possible away from the current order. But from reading his work, there was a message that another order is possible. The first book I read was I Will Marry When I Want. And when I picked the book, I thought it was a love story, just a purely love story. I didn't know it was a creative book title carrying in fact, serious message, to say the least. So for me, I look at Ngugi's work from the perspective of, he clearly talked about class struggles in Kenya. And even in his book, for example, I'll Marry When I Want, he's finishing the book by asking, when the trumpet is blown, on which side will you be? Will you be on the side of the oppressor, or will you be on the side of the people when the trumpet is blown? Basically, referring to the struggles that you have in Kenya that is also unfinished. At the same time, for my comrades whom we have been organizing with, I know comrades who have also been inspired by Ngugi. And we usually say that if not for Ngugi, basically we will have not been in the left in Kenya. We will have not been socialist. We will have never been communist, because we have interacted with the Marxist literature, and it is very heavy. But Ngugi was writing this literature, dramatizing it now using local scenarios, that even if you are not that much learned, that you have university education or higher level college, you can still see through his story that there is something fundamentally wrong with the current order, and there is need to work for a new order. I think I have done one of his book reviews, I'll Marry When I Want. When I was in the Communist Party, we published one of the book reviews I did. And I've also been doing some which have been unpublished. But for me, Ngugi spirit lives. I was not surprised when I heard of his demise, because there is sometimes back there was news that he was critically sick. So when I heard Ngugi was arrested, I also said thank you. He has played his part. It's now our turn to do our part. Comrade, I'm going home, but that is the shortest I can say about Ngugi. Among other books, The Devil on the Cross, Matigari, and other books which I've read from Ngugi. To us, it was a revolutionary writing, not writing to praise the thieves of the politicians who are thieves. Ngugi died on the right side of history, fighting with the people through the pen, and many, many more. Asante.
Great. Thank you so much, Comrade Victor. Thank you so much. Thank you for citing such insights from the younger generations. I think the inspiration, even ideological inspiration, but also getting inspired from his books, but also not only his books, but also his life and commitment to the struggle. I think it's very important. It reminds us also the words of Che Guevara, that he says that once that the death is not, it doesn't matter as long as there is someone else who is picking up the guns, who is raising his heart with a gun. And in this case, we remember Ngugi Thiong'o and what he wrote through most of his pen. His pen is picked by other people, and his struggles is picked by other people, and particularly by younger generation. Then his ink is never dry. And that reminds us even of the book he wrote, things like Borrow a Pen, saying that literature must be on the front line of the struggle and liberation. So thank you so much, Victor. I will now invite Otieno Otenga, and then next Mike Wayonge, and it will go like that. Otieno, karibu sana. Otieno, unmute, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can, at least from my end.
Okay, thank you once more, Comrade Ngugi. Hello, everyone from all sides of the world. My name is Otieno Otenga, and thank you, Ngugi, for organizing this meeting session. All I can say about Ngugi Thiong'o, personally, I've never met him, but from the works that I've read about him, I think I know him. I found an emotional connection with him, because that's how writers speak, and our writing definitely identifies and even reveals our personality. So I'm still a student, and from the little that I know about Ngugi and his works, which has really inspired me over the years, I can really say that it's a great loss in the field of literature for losing such a giant, and we really feel, and I am really hurt with his loss, and I really loved his work, but it's okay for saying goodbye to him right now, but a legend never dies, and we will continue to commemorate his memory by continuing to review his work. I love Ngugi Thiong'o from even the way our lecturers used to define him. He is the reason that I decided not to use my English names. That's why I always go by the name Otieno Otenga, because he wanted us to come away from that colonization mentality and to decolonize our minds. So I really love his work. And also, it's really hard to find such a giant. He was really bold and courageous. Even in his writing, he really stood for something which is right, which is a hard thing to find in this current generation. So I would like to urge other writers out there to continue with the same spirit, and let us continue to do more in the field of literature. And on behalf of Chance Publishers Limited, we have this event, this workshop on the 21st of June. It will be on a Saturday, where we will be empowering young writers and other writers, where we will really come as writers and readers to bond with each other. We invite you all to be there. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Tieno. Thank you so much. Just drop me, I think you can drop me the directions. I mean, that event that you're saying is on 25th June, just drop me direct messages to that event. Thank you so much, I think, for the inspiration that Ngugi has done on you as a young writer, but also as a young organizer who literally works. I think this is the thing that much encourages all of us, that the spirit is in so many ways, and mainly it's much more resounding and much more stronger when it is expressed in the younger generation. So I will now invite Michael Wairongo, who was there before, then you come back to Wanjiru. Karibu, Michael.
All right, thank you so much, Prof, for organizing this forum. Actually, we really appreciate. Personally, I have never met Ngugi, but I have always been in his, I would say, backyard, whether it's Camiredo. Right now, I'm in Karen. I've been to Northwestern, in Chicago. I have been to California, Stanford, and I believe all those spaces had an impact on Ngugi's life as a scholar and as a person. But now, I'm one of those scholars who will refuse to talk about Ngugi in the past. Because politically, Ngugi is one of the great contributors of Kenya as a nation that we have seen several regimes trying to erase him as a person, erase his work, even when he is alive. So I would call upon everyone that we know, yes, he has passed on, but we refuse as scholars to talk about Ngugi in the past. We promote his work, we stock libraries with his publications, and even in high schools, we talk to those people who select set books to be done. And we don't teach Ngugi's work in a sanitized way. We need to embrace the power of language in schools, just as Ngugi used it. That, like now, Decolonizing the Mind. It is one of the books that inspired me to pursue Kiswahili. And I have always refused to talk about Kiswahili as a foreign language, even if we know the dialect that we teach was taken from Zanzibar. And because of that, I have embraced Swahili so much that I taught it to foreigners. I taught it to more than 5 universities in the US. And even currently, I'm promoting Swahili in Kenya, teaching foreigners to think in our own language. Because when we talk about colonialism, it's not just us victims who needs to be decolonized. Even generations of white people who are coming to our countries, they need to be told right from the airport, you are coming to Kenya, yes, to speak English, yes, but we have other languages like Swahili, which has culture, respect the language and its speakers. And the more we teach these languages to foreigners, the more we are going to carry on the legacy of Ngugi wa Thiong'o. So even us who are in the diaspora right now, please, let's speak these languages to those foreigners you are interacting with. Let's talk about them. And we talk about them in ways that they will be embraced, not because they are lesser than English. No, we need to interrupt the colonial hierarchy that was created. Ngugi himself, I would say he has done a lot. He is one of those kings that cannot be put in a box. He is one of those heroes that language itself cannot capture. I have heard people talk about, he did not win Nobel Prize. But as enthusiasts of language, I think we need to change the narrative. Now it is time to say, yes, he did not get it, not because he was not qualified. Maybe we need another title to capture Ngugi's work. We go beyond Nobel. Thank you so much, Prof.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Mike. It's nice that you bring even the way of Kiswahili and it's being an African and language that just like any other Koyo. And Ngugi says that languages must be in dialogue. I think he does not so much say that this language is superior than the other, but what he says that language must be dialogue. All the years we have been told that the superior language to us is what we are speaking right now is English, it's French, it's Portuguese, is many other languages that have been spoken during colonialism. But what we get from Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a dialogue, that language must be in dialogue in all ways possible, but also the translation that we have must always be very supreme in terms of these languages being the carrier of our customs, our heritage, but also our identity. That's very nice for all of us. I'll come back to you, Mayor Wanjiru, Elizabeth, and then look for if there's one else, come back to us. But let's have Mayor Wanjiru. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Yes, I'm Wajiro, Mayor, Councillor. I'm in London. It's a sad moment for us, yes, but at the same time, personally, I am celebrating. Last year in November, I had an opportunity to share a platform with our late Ngugi Thiong'o. I was invited by Professor Thiong'o, and it was a big forum, and I was one of the speakers, just to say who I am. And I must say, he left me a challenge, and I'm a bit kind of torn because I haven't managed to do what we agreed I'm going to do. First of all, he was so pleased that I've become a mayor in a foreign land. And he actually asked me to share some of my photos in the chamber. But what he was so happy with is to see me wearing my traditional regalia in the chamber, irrespective of it's a white country. But he challenged me, change that name, because the name was Elizabeth Kangebe. He said, Wajiro, you really have to be proud of Wajiro. Just make sure that these people you are talking to do your job, but make sure you change and proudly call yourself. He was so happy the way I was dressed, but he said, your name, there is power in a name. He challenged me. He said, it doesn't take a lot to just make sure that you change that name. The other thing he gave me a challenge in, he said, have you written a book about, because I gave him a brief of my journey. I'm from Kiambu, Githunguri to be specific. And when I gave him a brief of my journey that, when I went to primary school, no shoes and all that, he said, you need to put that down in a book. And my book is almost published now. And he had said, I would love to see that book, Wajiro, because that is an achievement. These people colonized us, and now you are doing exactly what we should be doing. But he said, the problem with Africa today is the language. He said the governance, leadership, communication are all rooted in our languages. And he said, we are still using the language of those people who colonized us. He really fed me with a lot of, I'm left now wondering how I'm going to finish that, how I'm going to finish my book. But I believe I will still manage to finish that book and have it done. He actually was giving me titles of that book, Kikuyu titles that, you have to be really proud of that achievement. So we have a lot to celebrate. And like every other person here, I'm saying we are celebrating his life, because I agree. Somebody said he didn't get that Nobel Prize, but he has achieved more than that. That could have been hung somewhere, but his legacy lives on with us and even our children and generations to come. So it's up to us who knew him, who worked alongside him, who are his followers, where he was a lecturer. We need to make sure that this legacy is not lost somewhere. So I'm really proud to have had an opportunity just last year to be with him and share a lot of insights. And I can truly say that I will make sure that I do what I promised to do. That is just changing that name. It's just a deed poll. It's not a lot. And then my book must make sure that it's published. And I must mention the things that he told me. So Lala Salama, your legacy still lives on. You haven't gone. You are still living with us, amongst us, in our midst, because of what you have planted in us. Mimi niko London, and that is why I'm still serving as an elected councillor. I'm still serving as a cabinet member. And yeah, that's me. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wanjiro. Thank you so much. That is very inspiring of Ngugi insisting that you use your middle name. I think some of us mainly ignore even our middle name, and particularly women, they ignore their middle names, which I think Ngugi insisted that you should use that traditional name, which was given to you during birth time. And that is very, very inspiring. But also wish you the best in terms of finishing the book that Ngugi inspired you to write, and we'll be looking forward to read it soon. So thank you so much for that one, Jiro. Now, I think Hafsa has been raising the hand for a long time. Hafsa, you are still there? I think you come and you disappear, but Hafsa?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Yes, Kathingi.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I got lost.
Yes, karibu.
So I'm Hafsa, actually Hafsa Njeri Kadhigi from Chance Publishers. So I would like first to pass my condolences on behalf of my team. And then one of the most defining moments in my journey as a publisher, it came when I first encountered Professor Ngugi's bold decision to abandon English and write in Kikuyu. So that choice alone is reshaped how I understood the power of language and literature. So you see, when I was growing up, I often felt that to be educated, it meant leaving behind your roots, your language, your traditions, your village stories, and so on. Because when we normally went to school, the first language that you are taught is in English, not leave alone Swahili, English. So you see, we were fed with that you have to leave everything behind. And then when I used to love reading, actually, novels and so on. So, but when I encountered Professor Ngugi Thiong'o's books, for example, Decolonising the Mind, it completely changed how I understood education and storytelling. So he made me realize that writing in African languages isn't a limitation. It's a liberation, actually. So that realization changed how I approached my work at Chance Publishers. So we began to actually seek for authors who write in their mother tongues. So for example, right now we have published at least 10 titles written in mother tongues. Actually, we have Somali, we have Turkana, and so on, many of them. Kikuyu, we are yet to be there, but we are aiming for that. And then we have, now you see, because of him, I learned that publishing isn't just about books. It's actually reclaiming voice and restoring our pride. And then lastly, he gave us the courage to believe that the African stories in African languages belong on every shelf. Yes. And then thank you so much. And I would like to add on what my colleague, Mr. Vincent, said. So he's mentioned that we'll be having a writing workshop and book exhibition. That will be on 21st June. The venue will be in Bomb Blast Memorial Park. So you are all welcome, and thank you so much.
You're muted.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. I was saying, thank you so much, Hafsa Njeri Kadhigi, for that inspiration you got from Ngũgĩ, and if they're telling you that African voices, whatever form they are, must be on the bookshelves strongly and prominently. So thank you so much. I think I am being told that, let me see. Githuku telling me that there is Macadam already. Macadam is on set. He wants to come on site with a song. Macadam is, I think, Githuku introduced him earlier on. He's a prominent musician in Kenya, mainly using Nyatiti form expression. And so he'll come and pray for us a song or even some few words. Ndugu Macadam. It's muted. Is it muted? It's muted. Macadam is muted.
No, it's not muted, but it's dipping in and out. Let's see if they come. Maybe the signal is not so strong.
You can't hear, comrade. Can you hear?
Yeah, sure.
A block. That's okay.
Not yet.
Cheki kama iko mute.
No, it's not on mute.
Can you mute and unmute?
Yuki, can you hear?
We can hear your voice, but not Macadam's guitar, Nyatiti.
Songa hapa Macadam.
We can hear your voice, but you can't hear Macadam Nyatiti.
Kama ni rhythm ushikanishi.
Yeah, ni rhythm ushikanishi. Nafikiri iko mbali sana, it's too far really. Karibu sana Macadam.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, not so clearly, but Wangari, can you hear it yourself maybe?
Yeah.
Nasikia kidogo tu, but wacha tungoje tusikie ama itashika.
Okay.
How to do this? Can you hear?
Not yet.
I think ni signal iko na shida, maybe iko slow kiasi.
Here now.
Can you hear?
Oh, listen, Macadam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, the voice is coming clearer. The voice is sour, but the guitar is not. The nyachiti is not coming. Yeah.
How about there?
Bado. Macadam na bad.
That sounds better for me.
Maybe we do this. Githuku, maybe we look for maybe I know we look for, you can look for a way of amplifying the voice. Maybe I don't know what you'll do it.
Yeah,
Then
I have Petals here. He'll help us.
yes. So before we to panga mitambo, before we can't hear you, Macadam. You don't want to lose that voice. Please hold a bit. I think so that they can organize how you come back. Also, that people want to play the song, and then we can have another speaker. Just so you don't want to lose that voice of the nativity. They will organize that. Okay, so great. As they organize, the comrades organizes the music come on. Not yet. Anyone else who want to share what? Remember, we shall be ending at I think 15 minutes time, isn't it? Wangari, isn't it? So it's 15 minutes time to. Yeah, I wish you could hear. Yeah, okay. Anyone else who want to share before we go back to the other comrades to close this session? Anyone else?
I wondered whether if people had, if they don't want to speak live, whether they can also type in the chat, like a famous or maybe a piece of, I don't know, maybe phrase or something that speaks to them of Mwalimu, if some people are not, but yeah, if there's a reluctance to come on.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe to open that as an option as well.
Right, yeah, sure. That's a good suggestion, comment there. I think that's just you can chat, you can but we expect that maybe you can have some one or two final words as we look for. Mama Dia, are you still there? Oh, I think she dropped again. Mama Dia is still there. Mama Dia, are you there?
Yeah. I also Mom is also there, who was here during the symposium. I don't want to pick people and force them to speak. Joyce, I'm not sure whether you were there when Njuki was inviting you to speak as family. Maybe that's when your internet was playing up, but just sharing that also, that there was an invitation for you to say something if you wanted to.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Mama D says she's traveling, so not able to speak, lakini ningesema niko lakini kwenye gari. No worry. Thank you so much, Mama D. Once you ukipanga mipango properly, when you mitambo, just tell me up. Then you can see how you can connect. I know you're good in terms of connecting those kind of stuff. When you're on, just tell me up. But as we wait for the others, Wangari, you can still say some few words again in terms of some reflection that you might want to bring on. And I know much more than apart from the event you had in London, in the UK, in Manchester. I saw you took Ngũgĩ to Leeds, and Ngũgĩ is where he took his in Leeds University. If I memory serves me right, is where he first enrolled for the master's degree in literature, which again he didn't finish according to the way we read. Maybe that can be clarified by the Leeds University, but it was the university where Ngũgĩ now went and wanted to do his master's degree, but instead of finishing up his degree, he got the inspiration to write his book. I don't know whether he started writing a Grain of Wheat or which other book that made him to drop out of the master's program. But now when he went back to Leeds, I saw you showing us a photograph, which he was very excited about. He got a letter from I think recommending him to study at Leeds University. I don't know what your impression when Ngugi was encouraging reads after so many years.
Yeah, maybe I can share that. I noticed Claude has put her hand, but I'll quickly share that aspect of, or even the reason for wanting to have him in Leeds. I should say I also did my master's in Leeds and was disappointed that there wasn't any memorialization of Mwalimu there, considering how many decolonizing departments and institutions have risen all over UK and I think internationally. So, which prompted me to think, how is it that these departments or this work, or even his work, is being taught especially in the English literature, and there is no acknowledgement that he was there. And the campaign I started was at least 3-4 years ago to say of wanting something that's physical. And then engage with different academics in the institution, and we were getting somewhere, then we were not, and then we were getting somewhere again. So, but the reason why Leeds became such a vital point is, from Mwalimu's conversations, was actually Leeds is where he became politicized. And this is with the Students' Union. And this is where he learned, he deepened his politics, and from understanding what was going on in Palestine to even the civil rights movements in the 60s, all of that shaped and changed him. But there was one particular story that he shared of whilst he was at Leeds University, he was invited as a writer, because he'd already written, I think, 2 books, and one was in the process of being launched. And he was invited to a conference in the US, and in a conference in the US, I'm not very good at names, but somebody dismissed him and the Africanist, because they dared to say that the Bantu languages have 1 or 2 syllables, because they were talking about the importance of language. And this person was on a panel dismissed, saying that the Bantu languages have 1 or 2 syllables. So it's not even a language. And he felt so insulted by that he challenged, and that began his journey of being challenged to writing, not only in Kikuyu, but the importance of the other languages as well. So obviously that was a journey from the 60s to when, by the late 70s, when he decided to write in Kikuyu. That's how long it took. But the thing that was unique in Leeds was he didn't actually publish his final dissertation because he was told he wasn't academic enough. And this is a conversation that a few of us who are international or educated elsewhere, when we come here, or even activists, the feeling of you have to write in a certain way for it to be considered academic. So his writing wasn't considered academic, and I think that's why he didn't complete. And that piece of writing, which he again reshared when we were here, it became, it's kind of hosted in libraries elsewhere, and it became like a really coveted piece of work. That writing that was not considered academic enough for him to attain his master's at Leeds University. But the reason why we wanted to come back is because this is where everything started for him. Because from here he came back to Nairobi, and where he went and agitated University of Nairobi. So this was the bed that actually kind of almost catalyzed his political action and amongst everything else, because obviously the previous work that he was writing on during colonial times was also very political, but this was where he came back with some other energy, having been at Leeds University. So we came back for that purpose. We had challenges, and again, I can see here in the group some of the people who helped us to organize for us to be at Leeds University the first day and the last day, because that's what we did. The beginning part of the tour, if you call it tour, because we went to Leeds University, Manchester and Sheffield, but the beginning part of it was at Leeds, was with Munai was also on the call here, amongst in the student unions that we were, or students within the university that we were organizing for us to be there, and then the space and everything else, including reclaiming a piece of space that we called Ngugi Thiong'o Freedom Square, because we wanted to reclaim a space that Mwalimu was here, and it's important to acknowledge that. And then the final part. But what was really beautiful about, we held a session for a Kikuyu community session, or Kenyan community, whoever was there, as long as we were able to speak in Kikuyu for that session. And amongst that, I met a dean of university who also helped to organize for us to be now formally almost held at Leeds University because of the challenges we'd faced before. And one of the things that was organized on the back of that was a tour of not only the library, but for Mwalimu to see his original application to Leeds University, or his ID, but also the recommendations from the people who looked at his work. And that was an emotional moment for all of us, because he joked to Githuku, to Ndungi. He says, "You thought I was lying when I said I was at Leeds University," because there was a written evidence that actually he was here, and one professor commending on his talent or his gift. So that was a unique moment and a helpful one as well for Leeds University. And maybe just as a final, because I'm not going to come back in again to say anything, is I think what has been shared here, I think the Nobel Prize thing was something that we've commented on, and he said he won the Nobel of our hearts, and that's more important than a prize, which is the Nobel Prize. But more than that, I think it's for his work to live through us with our actions. So it's not to just celebrate him in emptiness or empty gestures. We need to celebrate him in our actions. I know for me it was important. Here I am as Wangari, and most people have known me as Penny. And I'm changing a lot, and the team and most people recently are calling me Wangari because he kept reminding them I wasn't even being called Penina. They were calling me Penny. It's like, you're even less than a pound and you're a whole leader. So what was shared by Wanjiru about the importance of our names, because I remember him even telling my mom, "You're stuck between patriarchy and colonizer, and it's important that we free ourselves from that." So let us live through celebrating through our actions going forward, and not let his spirit down either. And thank you, Njoki, again for responding and holding the space, but for everybody else who's attended, who's shared, who came, because I can see Nana Esses and a few others who attended when he was here. Thank you for all of that. And also for Joyce, who, as I say, met family. I met his family, I met his nephew, met his grandkids and grandchild and great-grandkids. So it was a very wholesome visit when he came here. And I'm glad we were able to hold this space for us to share a little bit.
Thank you very much, Comrade. Thank you very much. You've summarized it so well. Before we check whether the Fundi Mitambo from the Kenyan team is working with Uku, and I can see Maembe there. But before you come on board, I would like to read a few comments from Mama D. She says, "I would like to say that I'm so happy to have met Professor Ngugi, Professor Gradpan and Ngugi, for him to have cared enough to have spoken of his inspiration from fellow Caribbean author George Lamy." You remember that I think one of the first book of essays by Ngugi Thiong'o was called Homecoming, and he talked so much about the Caribbean writers who were there and who inspired him very much more, with George Lamy being one of them. But also, Mama D talks, we still have work to do to demonstrate the essence of his life work, to go far together through the practice of South inter-African connections, through which we can assert our cosmologies proudly, through and with our languages, all of them, including Patois and Kleos, which are the languages of Wikwe nation. The king has passed, long live his kingdom. Ase, ase, ase. And then there is somebody who is called Bernard Githuku. He says, hoping against hope that the language will be laid to rest at Kamerezi. Hopefully, I think we leave that. Of course, what we hear is that he wanted a very private ceremony, which we cannot interfere with. It is his prerogative and that of the family, but we'll keep people updated. And somebody asked me to, before we end, and I can see Comrade Githuku said that they might come as a cappella at some point. Let me see what Githuku is saying in okay, I can see who want to speak.
Yeah, comrade, we wanna give a try with the guitar. So I don't know. You give me a thumbs up if you can hear the guitar.
Okay, please try. Not quite. Not quite.
Yeah.
Atuski.
Okay. So we'll.
Tena maende. Hi, Atuski. Don't worry. I think we will. We'll do the acapella.
We can do the acapella now.
But before you come there, I think there's some messages I'm receiving. We will. I hear Joyce wanted to speak. Joyce, do you still want to speak? And Claude, Claude, I didn't see your hands up. Please, if you. Joyce, Claude.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, please.
Yeah. I suppose Mama D has led in on what I said, what I wanted to say. I've met him on the great man on a number of occasions, and the fact that he was proud to talk about the learning he had gained from speaking with Caribbean people and sharing his knowledge with them and them sharing his knowledge with him. I think that was the important thing that I wanted to mention. Mama D's gone in and said a couple of the things, but the fact that he really took time out to appreciate how much he learned and how much he'd given and taught Caribbean people, and how important the diaspora was and how important it was for the whole of the Black African Caribbean community to understand his teachings. So I just wanted to take the time out to pay homage and respect to a great man with great foresight, great understanding, and who has left a legacy for us to take forward and our children's children to take forward. So, it's very much an RIP, to the great man. And I'll leave it there, because I know the band want to play and they want to speak.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that final word. Chebet, yes, you're free. Chebet, please, Chesaina, you just tell us some few words. I just seek the indulgence of comrades and everybody to maybe extend to a minute, to about 15 minutes beyond our time, so that we can give the last words from all of us and the band. So, karibu sana, Chebet, Chesaina.
Asante. I came in a bit late. I just wanted to say that just very briefly, when Wangari was talking about the with the name and everything. So Ngugi Thiong'o was in class with my mom here in Leeds, and I'm in Leeds at the moment. So in fact, I'd sent Nanesi the thing. I wasn't sure. In fact, right now I'd called her and she's like, she was online. I'd totally forgotten that I'd sent her. The thing was today. So I apologize for my lateness. However, a lot of the things that you are saying was really encompassing who he is and what he stood for. And when now you're using your home name, that's what we used to call home name. So my mom, from the beginning, she didn't give us any English names. So I'm Chebet, my sister is Kaptuya. I mean, like we all have just no. So when people here were asking us, so what's your Christian name? It's just really weird, because Ngugi was one thing that mom always said, that he'd just be like, no, you stick with your actual name. This is your name. And people are, come, and even if they don't have, they'll stick with their like English name, Jane or whatever. Mom dropped her English name years ago, and by Paul, whatever. I mean, the man was really the man of the people, totally the man of the people, and he did not shy away from whatever. Even in those days, ages ago, when you want to be kind of like to fit in, because you're in England or wherever it is. No, the guy was just solid. Who he was, who he is, was from the beginning to the end. That is who he was, who he is. So I don't know why I'm being emotional, but yeah. So anyway, he was a good family friend, and he was a steadfast man of his word, and all that. So yeah, everything you people have said from when I joined is just very much who he is and who he was and who he'll continue being, as we remember him, as we carry on, even telling the children about these stories, reading them his books, that we all have, well, most of us have. And yeah, so anyway, that was all I just wanted to add to it. But I want to say I'm also disappointed that Leeds Uni hasn't done anything, but because I'm in Leeds, I'm going to try and follow that up and just see what Leeds Uni can do in order to commemorate this great man. So yeah, you have my word. I'm going to angalia what we can do here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adet. I think it is not only Leeds actually that's guilty of not remembering the legacy of people in Ngũgĩ, not even people like Michere, where they used to head the Department of Literature. Remember that Ngũgĩ was one of the strongest. I think he was could be the first chairman of Department of Literature. I'm not sure. Maybe that I'll have to check that record. But you will not have an endowment in a record of maybe Ngũgĩ, maybe like chair, for example, of African language or African literature, or even a commemoration plaque that we can have somewhere. So it is very much for us to forget our memories and to forget our hero and heroines. But I'm getting from Wangari that I was informed there's a banner now at Leeds University. There's another update coming. So happy to connect and keep you in the loop, Shebet. I think that's from Wangari, from you, Shebet. Thank you so much for that. But we will we'll continue keeping his legacy alive in many ways. I think what we are saying in this forum is that Ngugi is all of us, and he's all over in many spaces, in many ways, in many legacies. We shall be doing several sessions, even Ngugi as a revolutionary, Ngugi as a nourisher, Ngugi as a linguistic, Ngugi as a novelist, Ngugi as a poet, Ngugi, many things that you'll find in Ngugi, and also Ngugi as an activist, as a comrade in terms of the struggle. So I will again ask Githuku, if you mitambo imekuwa sawa. If you don't, we will then think of a cappella, but you can try again. I think you have received some instructions from the technical director, Kiyomi, what you can do. If you are not able to do it, you can think of an a cappella, so that we end with these sessions with the patriotic songs. One of the things that I know that Ngugi likes very much is dancing. And I remember.
How we do? Can Joyce has managed to get through before they start playing, please? Joyce has managed.
Yeah, Kadenga, please. Is it you?
Yes, I'm not so sure you can hear me.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for having removed you initially. When I was told that it was not time for people to come on board, so me being the illiterate in terms of technology, I just removed without warning. So sorry, Nyakarenga. Karibu sana.
It's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Oh, brilliant. I'm having a few technical problems. My son's not here to sort me out as usual. Right. My story goes back to from when I was a child, because my dad and Professor went to school together, and I'm a bit emotional, so please bear with me. My dad used to tell us stories about what they used to be up to in school. Professor used to write the songs, and my dad is musical, and my dad used to teach the songs. So I started hearing a lot of history stories from my father. And then I later on met his son, his eldest son. I was a bit blind. I didn't see them resemblance, and he didn't go by the name Thiong'o. So it's until later I discovered who the father was. So I got a beautiful son who looks like his grandfather. Wangari can confirm that. And it was when I started working, I started reading a lot of his books, and I tried to get my name Joyce off. And my dad told me, "You're going to the UK. you might need to rethink that. But when I got here, I was even more convinced that I need to go back to Nyakere Gawanganga. And I finally managed to change that. And it's through a lot of reading. And then I had the opportunity of now meeting him in person, now as an adult, when he came to visit his son. I think it was in 2014. And he came to my house and we talked. And he really encouraged me to write because I'm artistic in many ways. And after that, I told myself I'm going to set a challenge for myself, and I did write a book. It's never been printed, but it's there, and I've been doing bits and pieces of it and doing it on YouTube, doing it that way. And I did write a few stories. And he always told me when we talked that when I get a moment, I should put something down, even if it's one sentence. And that's why I've written a few short stories, which I release on Facebook, and I'm just about to publish one on Amazon Kindle. And it's the conversations we have when I talk to him every month. He's always encouraging me to write, and he's always encouraging me to pursue my artistic side and to teach the grandkids. And the best part of all of it was when he was here, invited by Racial Justice Network, he met his grandkids for the first time. And that was very moving. There's two of them, 7 and 4. And to this day, they do remember their great grandfather, and they call him Baba. And they always talk about him. They remember how he was dancing with them and how he was playing with them, how they were playing hide and seek. So for me, it's what he's inspired in me, and his eldest granddaughter, she's called Zuri. She has the writing side of it because early this year, my son was called to school with his wife, and her story was published in the school magazine. And at the time, she wasn't 7 yet. And she's got that side. She's got that, I believe, from her dad, because Thiong'o, his eldest son, is a very good writer. So she's got that writing side from her dad and her grandfather. And I have to admit that he's encouraged me to teach the children our culture and traditions. And with that, I joined with a group of women here in Leeds, and we started a group called Kikwetu Kenyan Community Group. And what we're doing is teaching our children our cultural songs, our cultural music, and our aim is to eventually start teaching them mother tongue. We'll start with Swahili, and then we'll go on to other ones. At the moment, they're enjoying the dancing, so we're teaching them traditional dances, Mwanamberi, Gosho, some Luo ones, and some Kamba ones. And that, I feel I got encouraged because of what a professor has been telling me to explore and teach the children about where they've come from. And I'm a bit emotional, so bear with me. Thank you very much for your time. And everybody keep doing what you're doing. And Professor, like we call him at home, we call him the legend. He will live in us forever, and we will forever remember him.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nyakirega. Nyakirega, thank you so much. That's very, very emotional and very, very important for that, giving us such insightful reflections on Ngũgĩ, and even changing your name, the writing trajectory you're taking through. Keep on writing. Let's all keep on writing. I'm reading something from Nana Essie. Thank you, Wangari, for inviting me to that session in Big House. I was struck and could not believe that I was sharing conversations, food and jokes with such a rich giant whose work sits on my bookshelves. I was very proud and honored to be in his presence. Ngũgĩ wanted to know about the work I did and not speak about himself. He has the knack of making you excel and know that you are important in this world of ours. May he rest in powerful peace. His magic will live on. And then Modoni Kahengi says that Brick House was the best that happened and will always remain memorable, spending the evenings together as a team with a great man who was so humble and sharing jokes for 3 good weeks. May he rest in peace. So that's from Modoni and from NSC who were there at the event at organized by LJN at Leeds. Thank you so much, comrades. I think I will give the word to Peter. After that, because we said we'll finish at 15 minutes, and then I'll get back to Githuku to do the a cappella, and then we close with that one. So Peter Thiong'o.
Can I just say one really small thing about Nana Essie? Very, very small, very tiny. He never lost his humor. So during that thing, the guy was even proposing to Nana Essie, which was just quite a funny thing. I just wanted to just put that out there. Nana Essie, sorry for me to say that, but yeah, it was quite amusing when he's like, yeah, you know, so there was a bit of a frisson there, but yeah, okay, we can move on now.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Thiong'o, karibu.
Yes, my name is Thiong'o, and I am calling from Florida. I'm a professor at a university called Florida Gulf Coast University, and I want to thank Miakangeza for sending me the link. And I notice most people here in the UK, and it's such an honor that you guys are doing this. I was a student of Ngugi in those days, long time ago, but there was a gap that came in, and now we reconnected when we met here. My story is more this last year. I think I talked to Ngugi until even last weekend. No, not this, the weekend before when it passed. We talked about 2-3 times almost every day. And like everybody else, Ngugi means a whole world to me and to everybody else. I liked a lot of articles. I passed through them to him, and they did it. There were many things he told me. Some of them you can see the standard today. I don't need crocodile tears. I need people to celebrate my life like what you guys are doing here. And that is something we were talking about as late as last week, the week before the weekend. In fact, that weekend we had a meeting with the literature department of the University of Nairobi, and I connected them. He wanted me to do that, and they are doing something. They connected through that conversation that they had. But I want to pick on something very special, that Ngugi insisted that I should also start lighting in Kikuyu. He'd always say, he called me Dingori down there, and he would say, Dingori, you are a very good lighter. You need you to start lighting in your language. If you don't know, like everyone knows, if you don't use your mother tongue, then our other language is, you know, you are still a slave. So he pushed me, and I was reluctant like everybody else to do it. But finally, 2 weeks ago, he told me the way to start. We had visited him with my wife, and he said, you have a very beautiful wife. Have you written her a poem? Yeah, I used to. He told me, write a poem now to her in Kikuyu. I can't, I don't know. Then he started, he started the first 3 words, first 3 lines, and it was so powerful. And I wrote the rest of it, and he led it, he corrected it in a humorous way, here and there, and it became a very good poem. Monday last week, he sent, when he was going for dialysis, he sent me a message. He left a message on my phone. Did you read it to her? And he was so proud that finally he had decolonized me in my lighting. And that was probably the greatest work he felt, the last thing he did. Finally, keep on, don't you ever stop lighting in Kikuyu. And I wrote a very good poem. I published it. You can see a lot of my writing about him in the different papers, in the different forums. But I thank you guys for doing this. Like everybody else, I'm also very emotional. I miss him so much because every day we talk 2-3 times these last days. He was my advisor, he's my everything, but most of it was a lot of jokes, a lot of fun. But the greatest achievement, I know the last thing he ever probably did, I can say probably the last piece of work I was so proud of, was decolonize me to start writing in Kikuyu, which I'm going to continue. And he started with that poem, which my wife liked very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Thiong'o. Thank you so much, Thiong'o. That is a powerful act of decolonizing you
yes.
towards the end of his life. That is very powerful. Thank you so much, Thiong'o. But also, it is inspired all of us that Ngugi was able to speak so many people at the same time. He was able to call you almost on a daily basis, 3 times a week or something. We have heard he used to call Jata, that they had a date almost every Friday, every Sunday. 7 p.m. They would speak. I remember they would speak very many times with the Githuku calls and WhatsApp messages. It shows the way that he was connecting all the people in various ways, and he had messages for everyone, even children, his family, and many other people. So that's very, very inspiring. Thank you so much, Ngũgĩ. We will now end this session with a performance from Githuku and the team there. You can do it the way you feel best, and then after that performance will be it. But I'm getting some messages from some people, from some suggestions that we can suggest whether we can suggest a meeting soon to continue the conversations. We have said, and I can read, the family has written several things that they want to do, including a meeting next week at Atlanta. There are several things that I will read here, but they have done. That is really the family organizing. There is a seminar proposed within the Nairobi University, but also there is another one that will happen in Kamirezo, Githuku, where he comes from, but also one in Nairobi. The activists are planning an event on 14th of next Saturday next month. This month, actually, on 14th June. This will be what we call a revolutionary event that will be happening soon. So now let's end this session with the final performance from the
By the way,
Yes,
Mr.
yes.
Chairman, I just wanted to say one last thing. He said the other weekend, one of the greatest things that he did was talking to the Gen Z. We talked a large number of them. We were there with Miakangeze. It was just a powerful, we felt that connection. He talked to them, and they've been telling me now they are also doing something for just how he inspired them to continue with their movement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ngũgĩ. I think so. Let's now bring on Githuku and the team. Karibuni sana.
Kwenye wimbo gani kaka kutoka jumuiya? Yeah, we want to do Ngugi loved the music. Ngugi loved the songs that we are singing today. Ngugi loved the RPP songs. And so these are the songs that we've been singing all along. And I remember him, apart from just Ngugi being a happy guy, somebody who used to love dancing, whenever he listened to some of these songs, and he would say, can you sing, you remember the one? And I say, which one? And he would say, all of them are nice, So we'll just try one which is a little bit, and maybe Iyaya. Guys, what do you think? Iyaya we, Iyaya, 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 Iyaya we, Iyaya, 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 Imba, Iyaya, 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 Iyaya. Colony way, if I give you what it's talking about. Colony way, if I give you what it's talking about. Colony mambo leo, if I give you what it's talking about. Colony way. Helele ya ya Doloma we, Doloma we, Imba Doloma. Doloma we, Helele ya ya we, Imba ya ya we. Pamoja, 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 pamoja twashinda. Pamoja we, pamoja, pamoja, pamoja twashinda.
Pamoja, pamoja, pamoja twashinda. Mundu wa Thiong'o. Pamoja, pamoja, pamoja twashinda. Yalele, ya, ya. Ya, 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 ya. Imba, ya, ya, we. Ya, 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 ya. Simama, 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 imara. Ama kimape. Simama, 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 imara. Kama Nyerere. Winnie Mandela. Simama, 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 imara. Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o. Simama, 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 imara. Kama wa Thiong'o. Simama, simama, simama. Yalele, ya, ya, ya. Imba, ya, ya, we. Ya, 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 ya. Ya, 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 we. Ya, 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 ya. Hata kufungwa jela. Baki nyuma sitaenda na kama Ngugi. Baki nyuma sitaenda na hata detention. Baki nyuma sitaenda na hata abduction. Yelele, ya, ya. Ya, 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 ya. Ya, ya, we. Ya, 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 ya. Imba, ya, ya. Ya, 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 ya. Ya, ya, we. Ya, ya. Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Loving comrade, yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you for the things you've done for us. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, loving comrade, yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you for the things you've done for us. Mekatilili, loving comrade, yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you for the things you've done for us. Patrice Lumumba, loving comrade, yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you for the things you've done for us. Wanjiru Kihara, loving comrade, yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you for the things you've done for us. Mishere Wampugo, loving comrade, yeah, we are far away from home. Yes, we love you, still we need you for the things you've done for us. Can you also sing one for us, for all of us? We'll help you. Do we still have more time?
Yeah, I think we'll end it there because I think it's now beyond a little bit of time. But I know one of the songs that if we had a guitar, we'll have played when Nyaga. Ngugi used to like that song very well. And of course, there's one song also, Twadia Tokenete, Tukachoka Tokenete. You remember that songs? So that song that we used to hear so much. But also tell young comrades that, but also the words that you're able to craft in Thiong'o from Adiomo Dongi, the song called Wimbo Baban. It is Ngugi's book, The Traveler and Kemal. We used to talk about it so much. Who is that? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. I think we'll keep this. I'm getting messages from some people asking whether there's event planned in Nairobi. I know the family sent a schedule of activities. One is happening this coming June in Akazi Gallery in Atlanta, Georgia. Then there is June 25, a venue to be confirmed in Nairobi University. I know the Department of Literature is organizing for that as well. They'll give us the date. But also there is one that is being planned. I know next weekend. I've said it is. We are planning it at National Theatre, Ukumi Mdogo on 14th. But this will be much more. We are calling it Revolutionary Life of Ngugi Thiong'o, from comrades in DTM, in Mwakenya, the diaspora, and others will come into play. But also there will be another one that is happening in University of California, Irvine, on 10th of November. I think this is where he spent his life teaching the last days. But also within the same time, I think June or July, there'll be a private family celebration of Ngugi Thiong'o at Githuku, Limuru, Kenya. But if you have got an event, a reading of Ngugi Thiong'o, just throw us up in terms of messages. I think we can. You can. I'll put here my WhatsApp number so that you can be able to send me a message, and then we can broadcast it in whatever way, and then we can link up to 5. Hey, go ahead. 754-582-575. That's my WhatsApp number. Just in 754-582. You can send me a WhatsApp message, anything that you want to do, a reading, a reflection, a poem, anything that you want to write about Ngugi Thiong'o. We will publish it even on the Commons Review. That will be very powerful. Modoni, you want to say something?
Modoni, thought that the mic was on. It just been...
Modoni, me?
Yes, Christine.
Modoni, sorry.
Oh, Modoni small.
Yeah. No, now Ngugi has told us to throw this name. Like when I say Christine, I know it's Modoni.
Okay.
I'm avoiding using it. Christine.
Yes, I know.
Okay. Yeah.
Say something. One final word as we close.
Oh, I just to say that I am at a loss because I wanted to join, but I couldn't over my phone until I got back to the house to use my laptop. And I know I've missed. I would have loved to say something, but now I don't know how much was said. But I'm happy for what I've had. Like I said, I put a message there that we had 3 good weeks with Mwalimu, the most humble man in this world. He never knew how great he was. And he never really understood how he aided us. From whatever he said it so simply, so humorously, and it was so funny. We'll miss him, especially me and my colleagues, Mwasi and Professor Gunga. We know how he was. We carried his books. We've been reading and discussing. And I think whenever we go to UK. I was in UK in April, and I really wanted to go by Brig House. That's also where we met Nyakirenga's grandchildren, who are Ngugi's great-grandchildren, and we had the nicest time. So then I think, I don't know whether somebody answered your question, Gededwa, when you said something about the presentation in Leeds, that is at Leeds University. I remember the joke he made that when he was launching his book, The Grain of Wheat, it was his own professor who used to condemn him for not being able to pronounce English words in English. His own teacher, his own professor. And I told him he's a loser. And then during the launch of The Grain of Wheat, he met with a professor at that, that path where they used to walk and where I think the events used to take place. And these people had come to launch his book, and the professor didn't know. So he called Ngugi aside and asked, what are these people doing here? And then he just told them, it is my book that they have come to launch. And the professor would not have believed it. But only because he used to say, I'll pronounce my words like a Kikuyu because I'm a Kikuyu. There is no way I'm going to pronounce it that way. So that was during the launching of The Grain of Wheat, which was, I think was his second novel. But otherwise, those of us who are with him for 3 weeks, we know we are going to miss the warmth and the humility that we experienced that time, plus the humor. I wish Penny, you are able, Wangari, sorry, you are able to share some of the dancing, because he was dancing everywhere. In the library, he was dancing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Modoni. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone who has been able to come here. I think when you say that Ngugi loves dancing and Ngugi loves the soil, the first time that he came back to Kenya after almost 23 years old, after almost 23 or 24 years in exile. And I remember him touching, when the plane touched the Jomo Kenyatta, he kissed the soil of the land. And if he went to Camberedo, he also kissed the soil of the land. I remember him bending down to kiss, to take some heart for the soil, remembering us of the Mau Mau and the way they used to hold the soil, and as a sign of patriotism. We'd have wanted completely the Ngugi to have come back in the country and stayed with us, even the last days of his life, because his love for this land and Africa and decolonizing the African mind, but also many other minds, was phenomenal. And so we appreciate that. We hope we can do it again anytime soon. This team or another team, just call us up. Thank you so much. And I know Dogo, let me see. Dogo is writing something here. Asante sana ndugu Njoki. Ngugi would have written a poem for your beautiful name. Thank you for moderating the event so well. Thank you so much. Of course, we try so much to stick to Ngugi, love for language, but also learning the language. I remember we used to exchange letters. Those are days that we used to exchange letters through Maino Kenyati, but also through him. Of course, it was difficult sometimes to reply, but we have been in touch in so many ways. Thank you so much for this session. Thank you so much for Wangari and the team at Refugee Justice Network. Thank you for Githuku for the big insightful, the way you've told us about the relationship with Wangari. Thank you so much. The man behind the mics, Kiyomi. I think Wangari and we don't like you calling Willie. We call you Kiyomi. Kiyomi is a very beautiful name. Thank you so much for Fundi wa Mitambo. You're always very quiet, but you have organized for all of this. But all the people, the comrades who have been here with us since we began. We began at 7 now, it's almost 9:30. This will not be the last time. We'll have it many other times. I think we end there, and have a good night, everyone, or a good day wherever you are, and we'll do it again. Asante sana.
Viva Africa, viva!
Viva!
Viva! Viva!
Viva!
Africa! Viva! 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 Everybody, viva!
Viva! Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.